And everybody's excited. Welcome to Far Reaches Podcast. He's giving her bucking. Oh, look at that. He's a spur, and it's a cowboy from Lake County coming out of Chute 7, folks. Let him know that's the only thing he's going to get your applause today. That's right. The new Desk Bronc competition. Last year's Rookie of the Year in the Couch Rodeo. Welcome to the Far Reaches Podcast. Those of you who are not watching this on video are wondering mostly what the hell I'm talking about. Well, we're on video as well, and young Richard Bradbury Jr. III was jumping and bucking on the desk there when Dad was getting ready to be on the video. So I had to commentate a little bit just because it shoots out of my word hole. And there we are. So welcome again. Welcome back. Welcome to another edition of Far Reaches Podcast. Remember, questions, comments, concerns, please send us an email at farreachespodcast@gmail.com, or as most of you do, reach out on Facebook or Instagram or text with your messages and comments. We've got some great comments this week. I'll go to the mailbag in a little while, but as I mentioned in our intro, we're also simulcasting on YouTube. We have a Far Reaches Podcast channel. So you can get it, double dip you, come from both sides. So no matter what you're doing, so get on over to YouTube, subscribe, hit that little notification button as well. So when one of these things come out, you get noticed. So either you can go look or you can avoid YouTube, whatever works best for you. So we're going to kick it off right into it. We are down a man at the moment. Mr. Joel has a torn labia, so he can't be here right yet. He's getting it stitched up and hopefully be back to normal soon. He is quarantining in Pendleton, as we know. He made the trek, I believe, and I've not seen him. I've heard from him, but he's unavoidably detained at the moment. But still joined, as always, by Mr. Raleigh Bigsby and Mr. Richard Bradbury. Raleigh was pooping last episode, and we're glad he made it back finally. I'm sure his legs are sore, and he's glad to be up and around, so to speak. So
toilet paper shortage here.
Yeah, got you again, didn't it? Yeah. So yes, we will jump right into our weekly updates, if you will. And since Raleigh, since you were pooping last time, I'll give you the floor this time to give us a little what's happening, where you're at. Looks like you're in the hacienda right now, and whatever you want to bring us up to speed on.
Yeah, no, it's been a busy week. Kel headed to California to be with family and get out of Dodge for a week or so here, and not have to put up with me. So she's in California, so I'm manning the ship right now, and just getting into the phase of working on hay equipment, getting it ready to go. Thinking about firing up some irrigation on some hay fields, though 21-degree nights just makes you a little concerned about turning it on just yet. So other than that, dealing with had some issues with some wolves up here in my cattle. And have been dealing with that on a regular basis, trying to make my presence known around the livestock, and just ranch shit.
I think that's a t-shirt right there, man. What have you been doing? Just ranch shit, really. Yeah. As everybody says, like cowboy or rancher, everybody wants to be a cowboy. It's time to do cowboy shit. So same thing with your ranching. So, well, that's an interesting first question. Since Mr. Joel's not here yet, I'll play the part of Mr. Joel. What's the difference between cowboying and ranching and farming? How would you define that?
By how they run cows.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'm same boat.
Farmers are typically strictly farmers. Cowboys typically saddle a horse every day and spend all day with cows, and ranchers are stuck in the middle somewhere. To an extent, not all ranchers put up hay. There's a lot of ranchers that run cows. Cowboys are the guys that take care of cows for a living, and not that a rancher doesn't, but he gets gets enough responsibility, he's got to hire cowboys to come help do the work. And when it comes to the farming end of it, sometimes you have to hire guys to come help do farming. But I, I don't know. Maybe I'm being a smartass saying by how they run cows, but farmers run cows different than cowboys would run cows, and ranchers too. So.
Yeah, Richard, did you hear that question?
Yep.
What are your thoughts? I'm just curious because I got mine. But
Rancher and farmer.
yeah,
And
and cowboying.
I can put my cattle on a truck and move them anywhere. Therefore, I can move my capital wherever I want to move them.
Oh,
That makes me a rancher. A farmer can't put his capital on a truck and move them wherever he wants because his crops have to stay in the same place. He might have some cows, but he's pretty much anchored to one place, whereas I can go wherever I'd like.
excellent point. Yeah, I honestly, I had not thought of it in that manner where farmer's not moving anything until it's harvested. Rancher, you're moving it while you're in the process of building it.
I just moved some of my capital around today, as a matter of fact.
Well, that's you're not moving cows. I'm just shifting capital. That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
I just learned this, and that's why I'm so excited. And I would recommend this book to everybody. It's called Red Beef Republic.
Red Beef Republic. Is that what you said?
And it talks about why ranching is different in the United States than anywhere else in the world. It's a brilliant book. Anyways, but the root of capital is cattle.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Very cool.
So that's what they originally considered as capital because it was movable and easily liquid. So we got that on Wall Street.
Rawls, anything else on your weekly update? I kind of cut you off by a little distraction. I apologize.
No, most of the public probably knows how my week went based on the Capitol Press report.
Yeah, I had several requests from people today and yesterday saying, have Raleigh talk about the Wolves. And I said, when and if he wants to, we will. And it's all in the paper already. But yeah, that was my feedback to those listeners that had called in for that exact thing. So,
yeah, my name is supposed to be redacted from any reports, according to the laws and regulations put in with the Fish and Wildlife when this comes up as a rancher. We're supposed to remain anonymous, so nothing can come back on us as far as, it's a pretty volatile issue. There's extremes on both sides of it, and then historically there's been death threats and some other things come up with people killing wolves, but so far I haven't had anybody want to get that stupid. So as far as the storyline goes, wolves in the area where I turned out cows, and they started depredating on my calves. Got 2 of them confirmed with the Fish and Wildlife, and
on 2 separate dates, right? Or two separate occasions?
2 separate incidents.
Yeah.
We found them on the same date, but the tissue and damage on the first calf was clearly 48 hours ahead of the second. The first wasn't as bad, had a deep wound on its left front knee from, I would say about the size of a silver dollar, just a gaping old wound right into the joint. Was full of infection and pus when we got to it. And then the second, my neighbor actually contacted me, and that calf had been stuck in the mud at a pond where it got chased into, but the whole right, just went blank. Oh, there's Joel boy.
Yeah, Joel's coming online. So
yeah. So, anyways, the whole second calf's hind right quarter above the hock had been severely traumatized. You could take one finger and stick it clear through the hams and touch the opposing ham on the left side, the holes, and just shredded. That I've got lots of footage from documentation, pictures over the course of the last 2 weeks of doctoring on it and whatnot. But he's improving. He still has no function of his toes on that side. He just drags his foot. as he moves. Pretty, you hear about it, and you hear about the brutalness of what these animals do, but you really don't understand until you see it firsthand. They're ruthless freaking killers. And anyhow, after that night, I went out to be at the livestock that evening and monitor things, and actually had wolves howling all around, and 2 of them came into my neighbor's cows 1,000 yards away from me and were chasing his cattle around right up until dark. And I'd hazed them off of those, hazed those ones away from those ones by shooting, just making noise, trying to get them to leave. And showed up the next morning to find at daylight a wolf chasing my cows. You're left with no choice at that point. And fortunately for the situation, I had the weather in my favor to where there was no questionable doubt as to the evidence. Running cow tracks and a wolf laying dead in them. So that there wasn't anything that.
No room to really speculate or tell another story besides this thing was in my cows.
That's been one of the big issues for the stockmen is you hear of confirmed depredations, you hear of possibles, and there's one other term that the fish and wildlife people use. There's another grower over in the Pendleton area had some likelies and possibles is what they call them. Well,
that's right.
And those essentially are cattle that they find completely consumed, nothing but hair and hide and bones laying there. And they may have had a GPS caller come in on one of these wolves stating that they were in that area in that time frame. So it's a likely. It could have been a wolf. Well, the trauma on the animal and the livestock for the confirmation process is gone at that point. They've consumed it all. Well, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, found the traumatized livestock still alive, luckily. But the confirmation process is much easier at that point. And so it's a very controversial issue, no doubt. Do the wolves need to be here? You're going to get a lot of different arguments on that. I personally could care less whether they're here or not. However, if they are going to be here, we need to be able to manage them. And
yes,
in my case, the pasture those cattle are in right now is only about between 700 and 800 acres. And quite frankly, I had the opportunity to do what I did, and wasn't proud to have to do that, but it's what you have to do under those circumstances. The problem I have, I had requested for a kill permit on that piece of property. If they're even on the property, then I can kill them. Well, they wouldn't even grant me that. And the bottom line is if those wolves are there, they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
They're there to kill livestock or to kill something to eat. So I'm still not legally able to, as long as they're on the property, shoot one of them right there. I have to catch them in the act of pursuing my livestock in order to do it. And once it's already been proven that they're doing that, and hell, I killed one doing it, they still won't give me the opportunity to defend my stuff without them pursuing it. That's the part that's bullshit to me. That and the fact that in a recent wolf revision, 2 confirmed depredations within a 9-month period warrant the Fish and Wildlife to do a lethal take on the pack. Numbers, that's up to them at that point. But they told me on the same lines that I didn't have enough non-lethal measures. My livestock had only been in the pasture for a week when I got the first depredation. I'd been there 3 different times in that time frame, and the first depredation, based on the dates, would have occurred the day after I was there the last time. So in a week's time, how much non-lethal measures can you do? I mean, I could put up their stupid flagery and go out there and spend time flying kites or something, but it's not like that's the only thing I have to do. And my presence was certainly there enough, considering the circumstances. So, it's a bad situation that the stockmen are in. But every time that you think you're getting somewhere, they move the goalpost.
Yeah,
And
that
so
is the tougher part.
you're stuck with them being the judge, jury, and prosecutor all in the same thing. I mean, you're kind of at their mercy. But I wouldn't call it fortunate that I was able to take one, but it's a shot in the arm for the cattlemen.
I think timing wise, the fact that you were there, it was muddy, you caught them in the act, and were able to get that all solidified and evidenced by the authorities. Certainly was the better part of a bad situation.
Yeah, and hopefully it's a breath of fresh air for the cattlemen to know that it can be done. I mean, it's not this. The sad part is you can't spend every waking moment with your livestock like that. It just that it's not affordable, and it's not everybody's going to be in that situation and catch them that quick. But hopefully something bigger will become of it that'll be a benefit for the cattlemen.
Yeah, there's been, not to beat a dead horse, but there's been a lot of time and effort by a lot of different people put in on the wolf program and what's going through so far and where it's at, just to get it so it's somewhat, workable. It's still a long ways to go until it's really, what it needs to be.
We're dealing with a state that has a lot of different areas, and our particular corner of the state is extraordinarily infiltrated with these beasts. And to my knowledge, as of right now, since my depredation on the 22nd, I believe it was confirmed, since then, they've had a depredation in Union County. Just before mine, they had one in Union County on llamas. They've had one since. They've had a possible depredation here in Wallowa County again on Bear Creek. They've had 2 possibles over in Pendleton area on the Indian allotments up there.
Yeah.
And this is all in a 2-week time. And if you don't think we don't have a problem that warrants being taken care of, look at that time frame and look how many losses the stockmen are incurring. And we're just now turning out. We've got 6 months ahead of us of turnout.
That's a good point.
It's the sheer dollars. I don't think people understand. Yeah, a lot of people can say, well, yeah, when you take that calf you're going to get $800 to $1,000 when you go to market in the fall. Okay, let's look at it from this perspective. How about the fact that all my cattle have been bunched up for 2 weeks, just milling from the pasture, not eating, not gaining. So I've got 80 head out there, and I'm losing. If I'm gaining a pound a day, I'd be surprised right now.
Oh yeah.
From them calves. Yeah. So that's 80 pounds a day that I'm not gaining on my final length. But then you go to the other side of it, those cows aren't milking like they should because they're not grazing enough. And the breed back on them.
Absolutely, that's the key.
Sliding off the other end. That's where our real loss is the breed back. And these cows that are supposed to be producing for us for 8-10 years are now, my young cows might not breed back as 3-year-olds because they're stressed out being chased around. And that's the economic impact. When you start totaling the dollars on all the ranchers in my area that have to deal with this right now, you want to talk about some loss to a community. Those are extra dollars that we can help in our community that we don't have now.
Especially now. Yeah. And I know what some people are going to say, like, well, you shouldn't be there. That's where the wolves live. Well, a little background, kids. That metropolitan area over there on the west side of the state called Portland, aka Stumptown. It's called Stumptown for a reason, because they cut down every freaking tree in that valley swampland that used to be over there, and that's where the wolves used to hang out, kids. Nobody likes to talk about that, but that's really where they used to be. Because you think about that whole Willamette Valley, if it wasn't popularized, what kind of buffet smorgasbord that would be for wolves herding around. But I mean, that's why you call Portland Stumptown, because it used to be heavily timbered everywhere. And if you look at these little pockets that haven't been destroyed, it's prime habitat. And so when people keep pointing back to the east side of the state and saying, well, it's your fault for living there. No, we just kept it more natural than anywhere else. And this is where they've all been shoved because it's convenient for you. But look, they're supposed to be where you walk your poodle. So think about that a bit too, that like you said at the very beginning, we've changed the ecosystem. It now needs to be managed. whether you like that or not, it's never going to go back to pristine, whatever that might have been. It's going to be managed because, like it or not, man and beast have been here. So, that's the end of my sermon on that. But that always, it's a component we have to take into consideration.
Richard, what's the situation look like in your part of the world? I know you guys are starting to see them moving in. How's it getting to be down there? Are you guys having any problems?
I'd say this summer will be the test. They're
Mhm.
mostly on the ranges where we just turned out, and so there was first reports were early March. That sort of died down. So I don't know where they are, but I saw some about 3 years ago, 2 wolves, but I think they were just passing through, going somewhere. But they're definitely gave another look at the valley this March. They were hanging around the feed grounds. So,
well, maybe you can get the Fish and Wildlife to come down there and put some collars on, because you still won't know where they're at because they won't tell you.
yeah, I've heard horrible stories of people that have lost livestock to cattle and complete indifference and just treated like crap by the government officials. Like, I know a rancher family up around where you're from that there was a wolf tooth stuck in the hind end of a cow that had died.
Mm.
And the guy that came out to investigate it said it wasn't conclusive enough evidence.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't send the hair in because there was wolf hair around.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't send it in for DNA testing because it wasn't. They don't have any program to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's an endless, and it's anytime you get a zealot or an evangelist in a position to manage that kind of thing, this is what happens. And it's just it reminds me of the 90s when all the cattle free in 93 people were running.
Oh man, whoa, that's a flashback.
Yeah, well, down here because there was a bunch of armed hippies running around and doing all sorts of weird stuff and raising hell with the loggers and yeah. So I foresee that we probably have that type of mentality coming back with the wolves, and turns out it takes about 30 years to get that all straightened out. We don't have the radicals that we used to with the spotted owl, but with each endangered species comes their own set of advocates and their own. They're all radicalized, the ones that are there every day. And it's just that, unfortunately, the radicalized ones are the ones that are managing the programs in the government. And if we haven't learned that after 30 years of endangered species, then we aren't learning very much at all.
Yeah, and that's why you're always instantly bucked up against any agenda, because you wonder what it truly is. Rarely is the case when it's right up front what's really going to be happening. So
I wanted to compare and contrast the difference in cultures and the cultural memory of wolves. When I was in Russia, one of my hands came in and said they thought they saw a wolf. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Is there wolves around here? They said, well, occasionally, yeah, we do see a wolf. And we thought we saw one in the pasture. The next day, Russian military were there fully armed and patrolled the ranch for the next 7 days. Multiple vehicles driving around, and they were having nothing of it. And they never saw the wolf again, but yeah, they take in Russia they take wolves very seriously, and there's no question as to what's going to happen to them if they're in livestock.
wow,
yeah,
and that's an image. Yeah.
So, I would say that America is unique, being the first world country, that we have a much different and how would you say it, privilege position on wolves, whereas other parts of the world that deal with wolves have a much different approach to dealing with them. It's not as romanticized.
And we have much more democratized, if you will.
We still remember when it actually, like what Raleigh was talking about, just incredible economic devastation.
Yeah. Well, let's roll right into your update there, Mr. Richard. Raleigh, thank you much for sharing that and bringing some light to a lot of people's questions. I appreciate that.
Sucks that you got to go through this.
Yeah.
You can commiserate with Marshall about aliens. We are, I think we have about maybe 38 head left in the valley. We're almost completely turned out. By tomorrow we will be. So that has been a marathon. And so happy to have that done. I just like I was told these guys before we started, I just got out of the cow truck. My phone was dead, and I wasn't even sure how close it was to 7. So
Oh, geez. Good. Fortuitous timing, Richard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That means lucky. Yeah.
Mike's going to kill me. He's going to kill me.
I won't.
Last time my phone worked is I was pulling out the grade from Adele, and it was 3:30.
Oh, geez.
Would it be close?
You probably enjoyed a bit of silence too, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I didn't get to listen to Pandora or anything. I had to sit alone with myself, which is horrifying.
Oh, yeah. And not your singing. I was thinking of when I do the same thing. Yeah. So didn't mean to agree that quickly. Like, stop. No.
Got a really cool meeting next week. Oh, we did have another country natural beef meeting talking about the market, the beef packing industry, and it's not getting better. And probably looking at there's going to be a huge glut as soon as they get everything up and going. That's going to hit probably in I'm thinking September, August. That's going to be pretty devastating. And my prediction is we lose 10% of the ranchers in the United States in the next 18 months, and the average cattle herd number goes up to 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bold statement, sir.
I would say probably in 24 months, that's what the reality will be. It's at 68 now.
It's 68, okay.
So I had to explain to somebody why I was telling them, yeah, the average herd size went up from 42 to 68. And they said, well, that's awesome. I was like, that's the opposite of awesome. That means that lost a lot of producers and that's been consolidating. So
fewer herds, yeah.
And the consolidation is going to continue, I think.
I think it will to a degree, but I do see such value in these direct-to-consumer programs that might reverse that to a degree. I certainly hope.
And there's a lot of movement on that front. I reached out to either of you guys or anybody that's listening is aware of Rio Nutrition.
Yes.
They have like one of the most impressive online presence that I've ever seen from an agriculture company. Like, I'd say they probably is, when you search it, it's like when you search Butcher Box. It never goes out of your search engine. It's sticky. So they're going to visit with us next week. Trevor Greenfield, who is an amazing person that has heads up Rio Nutrition, talked about lots of energy and high intensity. He's also struggling with how do you keep face-to-face perspective with customers in time of Covera, or not Covera,
COVID. Covera. It sounds like a 78 car model or something. The new Covera.
You can give it a more sinister name.
Yeah.
So we brainstormed, came up some really cool things to sort of punch up our direct marketing and try and capture that premium approach that other brands aren't going to. So maybe Micah's next round, he'll get to experience it. Did you ever get yours worked out? Were they able to get it to you in Lincoln?
Oh, I was that was one of my happy updates. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been communicating. Richard mentioned it last week, and I talked over the top of him too. I think maybe a week before about Desert Mountain, right, Richard?
Yep.
Yeah, Desert Mountain grass-fed now being available online, and I was so excited. But it was only a smaller region, really, where you could get it. So I was emailing with Tracy several times to find out, because they did have a thing on there that says if you're out of our area, get a hold of us. We'll see what we can work out. And I just found out today that they have like I think it's a $20 or $25 flat rate for shipping if you're outside of the magic box. And
That's
so
hilarious.
I placed my first order this afternoon, which will be
Right on.
processed next Tuesday, and then head my direction. I should have it by next Thursday, probably. So very happy to be able to do that. And I know I shop with some other people too, but I really wanted to get some of y'all's products and see how it's going. And so I think Tracy was wonderful to work with, very polite, very kind, and awesome to get that that $25 flat rate going as well for them. So if people are outside the region, like if Mr. Joel was still back in the motherland, he could even get it there probably. So
That's hilarious. You said that. As I was gathering one of our summer or one of our spring permits today, my Slack notification was going off, and they were discussing how to get for people that wanted an outside area to do. And one of the people that's helping us suggested a flat rate. So that happened in less than 24 hours. That's pretty amazing.
it was awesome, yeah, because when we were talking the other day, talking about a few things and looking at the price and this back and forth, and she said, we're working on something. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And then I heard today, and so it was really cool to see that. And I'm excited to help support you guys and selfishly get some great beef. So that was one of my happy updates for the week, or what's going on in my world. So
I don't want to plug what's your buddy in Colorado for people that
Colorado craft beef.
Yeah, I want to plug him. I think that sounds like he might be out.
He's booked a lot. Like I just talked to him today, as a matter of fact, and he's like, we're not really advertising at the moment because we are booked for the next few months, as many cows as we can cram through and still maintain what we do. They're expanding as we speak, so I think that's cool. But yeah, I like working with them too. They do a great online presence. They've done a great job of marketing what they do and telling their story, which I think is always the key point. Clear back to when Doc and Connie started just telling the story. As you guys know, that's key in my mind.
And then the other one I want to plug was down in Houston and in Missouri, BlueNest beef.
That's actually north, isn't it? BlueNest runs up through North and South Dakota, I think.
That might.
I was looking at them too. Yeah, they got a neat online presence.
And they're real quality, real good guys. They're not owned by outside investors or buying cattle from other places.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy from them, you're getting the real thing. One of the founders of BlueNest Beef was actually the guy that started Thousand Hills grass-fed beef, which is one of my
favorites. Okay. Yeah, I just connected with him on LinkedIn the other day, actually, after our last conversation, I believe, and then was looking at their stuff online also to see if I can get some of that rolling. So yeah, so we got High Desert, we got BlueNest, we got Colorado Craft, and anybody else that wants us to think about it, we'll be happy to talk about what you're doing for sure.
But yeah, a lot of people taking advantage of this, so it's happening. And there are some people that were ahead of the curve a little bit and already geared up to take advantage of this, and COVID sort of pushed them that extra little bit. So, and everybody I've talked to is working their buns off to try and get the best product out there that they can and deal with all the different packing. The regional ones are coming back online pretty good, but they're swamped because they came back on so much faster than the larger packers. So they're getting a much needed shot in the arm as far as revenue because they're the pretty girl to dance right
now. Absolutely, and I hope this is a pipe that once it gets opened, it doesn't get shut back down. I don't think it will. I think it'll continue to grow, but I think these are the times to shine, and hopefully it keeps doing that.
That was the other news. Go ahead and talk about it. I'll get back to this. There's something exciting happened. Oh, here it is. 11 attorney generals from Western and Midwest states requested a U.S. Department of Justice investigation into acquisitions of anti-competition practices by meatpacking companies.
Oh.
Those states would be North Dakota, Colorado, Missouri, Montana, Arizona, Idaho, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, South Dakota, and big surprise, Wyoming. I'm surprised Texas hasn't thrown in with this yet.
They're busy dealing with hairdressers, I think, at the moment. So yeah, they'll get there soon
Oh,
though.
they have a hairdresser revolution going down there.
I couldn't be prouder, I tell you. Yeah.
God bless big hair.
Yes, especially. Oh man, I keep notes. Everybody listening and watching, I keep notes as we struggle through these, just to try to hit high points so I can remember what we talked about and when. So it's going to be wolves, online beef, big hair. That's my notes. First 3 points that we've
That sounds
covered.
like a party.
It does. It sounds like, hey, sign me up. I'd probably a pretty good cover charge to get into that one. So. No, yeah. The other high point or weekly update for me, besides my constant job search and Zoom interviews, is while rearranging my freezer in my garage, I stumbled across a missing pork belly I'd forgotten about and some pork loin. And so we've had some requests to talk more about some cooking and such. So I thought those both out and chopped them all up and seasoned them appropriately and made about 12 pounds of Micah's AP sausage. So a nice little breakfast sausage, one of those miracle finds in the freezer where you're like, oh, look at this mystery meat in the bottom, and turns out it's something you really want to cook and eat. And so, yeah, that was an afternoon project of getting that all spiced up and cut up. And unfortunately, I sent it to some people, and they said, is it going to be like the last batch? And I said, no, because I don't have the recipe for the last batch, because it's just some of this, a little bit more of that. This sounds spicy. So, it's truly a one of a kind experience when you experience some Micah's AP sausage. So, my cooking update, we can talk more about that later. I've sent the recipe to several people already this week that saw me. I had it on the Facebook, I think, where I put the before and after, if you will. So always fun. I really enjoy doing that stuff. It's smoking and making sausage and bacon and the like. So we'll have an episode or something in the future dedicated to all things cooking, especially from the how should we put it, the single man's point of view of cooking, and how to be resourceful and use the same thing the entire week. So awesome. Got any more weekly updates from anybody? We had a pretty good round so far. It's been impressive. So yeah, almost sound like we know what the hell we're doing as far as what's going on. So
I think there's a lot going on in a time when we're supposed to be not doing anything.
Isn't that right? Yeah, like, man, for this is kind of wearing me out, all this stuff I'm not supposed to be doing. So we'll shift gears a bit and go into our movie thoughts for movie of the week, which I was proud to be able to pick one of my all-time favorites, The Quiet Man. And this is where I'm going to miss Joel. I miss him all the time, but we'll have to get some of his perspective a bit next time. But, we're slowly immersing him in the world of John Wayne. And so way early in our career, we had talked about McClintock a bit with Mr. Joel. And I think he missed the mark to a degree. And so we brought back The Quiet Man because, again, it's one of my favorites. And I think we hinted a bit last time that we actually had a chance to watch this in high school. I think it was either junior or senior English. I can't remember which one. I know it was the Falconator was the teacher. And it was really to describe and learn about the dowry system and how that's so important in many cultures of, what comes with the wife when she's wed off. And so, so that's one thing that, I think really was a great excuse just to watch an awesome movie, but we actually did learn something too, even if we didn't know it at the time, I'm sure. So, Quiet Man, 1952 classic with, directed by, I think, one of the greatest directors of all time, John Ford. Him and John Wayne, I think, really had a good mind meld. And then, of course, Miss Maureen O'Hara, which I think was probably one of his most prolific co-stars of all times. And so, Richard, what's some of your favorite takeaways from this movie? And there's so many to talk about. We don't want to get too bogged down, but I think what hits you when you think about The Quiet Man?
I think first of all, I think it's a beautiful movie. It's something for John Ford you picture Monument Valley, all these beautiful arts with piled rocks. But he, I think that the way that movie was filmed, other than the grain of the film, could be filmed right now. I mean, a very sort of just a beautiful movie that's sort of timeless in that.
Yeah, in case I always get all excited and I skip ahead too. But for those of you who have not yet seen Quiet Man, I'll give you a brief 30,000-foot view. You know, John Wayne's a boxer, retires. He's from this little town, Innisfree, from where he was born. Doesn't really remember it, but he moves home to buy the family cottage and land. Sees Maureen O'Hara, instantly falls in love. Of course, she is a Danaher. Mary Kate's Danaher, and her crazy brother and her brothers. They all live together, you know. And so she's still the spinster living at home, taking care of the brothers, and they're all doing their own thing. But of course, her brother and John Wayne don't get along, and so chaos ensues of many things. One of the best fight scenes of all time, I think, in my opinion. It must travel at least 12 miles across countryside. Yeah. And so they have their ups and their downs, and it's great. And the Irish culture, and as Richard definitely alluded to, just the landscape and the way it's shot, and the little, like the subtle, you know, things about the train. Well, you know, since you're only 4 hours late, you suppose we should get going now. Things of that nature. So I wanted to bring everybody up to speed on what exactly kind of we're talking about, but it is a wild ride indeed, throughout the whole thing.
My other observation is, I think that Maureen O'Hara, I mean, I guess you'd have to live in Ireland and watch the movie in Ireland, but I can't even imagine that anybody would. I think that she nailed the Irish lass to a T, having been raised with so well.
I was going to say, you do have a unique perspective in that, yeah. Yeah. Raised and survived, yeah, so.
And I'm done being helpless. Get out of my way.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, you know, here's a nice stick to beat the lovely lady with. Yeah.
Favorite quote of the movie.
Oh, 5 miles, just a good stretch of the legs. Yeah. So she finally pushes John to the point where he's going to stand up and defend her honor, so to speak, and he has to go get her from the train station, which is 5 miles away, and he drags her back. And the crowd, of course, has been waiting for this the whole entire time. Everybody from the priest all the way down to the bartender. And so and the poor guys driving the train, they just leave the train that's already 4 hours late. They leave it in the other town, Duncan, or anyways, doesn't matter where they're at. And they walk all the way back. Of course, he leaves his horse there, her luggage, and they just start walking back home, because he's taking her back, you know. So
I think the interesting thing is, so we talked briefly about support your local sheriff and gunfire.
Yes.
And a lot of those Western comedy type things and different movies of that era had the feisty, like, what's her name in support your local sheriff?
Oh yeah, the mayor's daughter. Yeah, who was? I can't think of her name right now.
So I'm assuming that I didn't go back and watch support your local sheriff, but I'm sure it's in. There's a girl. Anyways, all those actresses tried to do what Maureen O'Hara successfully did in 3 movies that I can count, but they couldn't pull it off as believable. I think that what was so powerful about Maureen O'Hara is that sort of spitfireness and willful headedness, and sort of, I would say, feminine power.
Mm-hmm.
Not many actresses could pull that off and do it so many times to make it so believable, and that's why I think the McClintock, Big Jake, and Quiet Man are such touchstone movies. And 2 of them, John Ford. So
yeah,
he knew how to push the buttons.
Just guide a little bit, I think, too, because I think that was probably a lot of her natural being, but it said a lot about her as an actress, and John Ford also, about, you know, kind of a pain in the butt, you know, but you still loved her for it. You're like, you know, yeah, she's a thorn, but I'm glad she's my thorn, because she's going to be she's fighting with me, whether she admits it or not. We're fighting together as soon as I get her on my side, and nothing's going to tear that apart. I like that about her, because certainly in McClintock, the hair is up, and obviously in Quiet Man too, because things aren't all that they should be. And most of the time it's because John Wayne was being stupid. But you don't want to admit that. So
and they play off that history between the two of them so well in Big Jake. It's super powerful because they, like when they do the money exchange with the box.
Oh yeah.
Are in the train station to decide that they're going to not actually pay cash, but they don't tell anybody else. And they're at odds with each other, but their relationship is so believable that you would, when that plot point in that movie becomes true, you never even second guess that that's what those two would have decided in that train.
Yeah, and they really didn't have to hardly talk about it. It's just like they just knew. Yeah.
Probably not even seen each other for however many years in that movie, like 7 or 10 or something.
That's right. Yeah.
But they were still so simpatico that, and it was believable on screen, and like you didn't have to justify it. And I don't think that would be available without the movies, the predecessor movies.
Well, yeah, even like in Quiet Man, because her big hang-up is that John Wayne won't ask her brother for the money for her dowry, 350 pounds sterling, and so when they finally get to that point, and her brother's out there in the field thrashing, and they got the big boiler tractor going, and John Wayne asks for the money, and he throws her back and says, no, take it off. And then he finally gives the money, and she's already over by the tractor. She opens the door, and there's fire inside, and John Wayne throws the money in there like, I got it, it's ours, but now I want nothing to do with it. And they throw the money in the tractor and close the door. She was already ahead of that, and that was there, like, unspoken already too. Like, he gave us the money. That's all we wanted. It wasn't the fact that we needed it. It was the fact that he didn't give it over, and so it wasn't a true bond.
Well, which is the foundation of many good generational Irish fights.
Oh, to be sure, yes.
Touche.
It's not the money, it's the principle.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. That's why we do most things. It's because of the principle. I hope it is anyways. I mean, that's how I think. It's the principle involved, and not necessarily all the other stuff. And sometimes that's the smart thing, and many times it's not. But that's what you have to live with when nobody's looking. So, Rawls, any other thoughts on our Quiet Man? I was wishing Mr. Joel hadn't torn a labia, and he could drop in some pearls of wisdom, but I'm sure we'll get some later on.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I didn't actually watch the movie. I picked up clips of it when I had time to. Really enjoyed what I saw and look forward to actually watching the movie now.
Yeah.
There were a couple scenes that they showed. One, the fight is unquestionably the best fight scene I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Hand me a bar towel.
Yeah.
And then
Marcus the Queensberry rules. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when the the brother first met in the bar.
Oh yeah.
The handshake.
Definitely. Yeah.
We all grew up with those handshakes where we tried to squeeze the other guy as hard as we could. I mean, anybody that doesn't relate to that movie hasn't done enough living yet, I don't think.
That's so well stated. Yeah.
And I haven't even watched the whole movie yet, but just seeing what I saw, yeah, it's just a good-natured movie.
Yeah, you hit on the head with that handshake. That was exactly what I thought too. Like, wow, some of my earliest memories are my uncle crushing my hand, not in a mean way. He would always just go to where you knew, like, and he taught me. And so did my dad and my granddad and everybody. Like, you meet somebody, you look them in the eye, and you shake their hand firmly, like you know what you're doing, And so, and it's still, when I see my uncle, it's death grip 9,000, man. And we're not stopping until one of us decides to blink, and it's probably excessive for some people.
It's interesting to be on this topic because you look at the world that we live in today, and it's rare to have people walk up and put their hand out, look you in the eye, and shake your hand, and shake it like they mean it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a unique lesson in life that starts with respect, and it's a good way to learn respect from one another right off the bat. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's missing from our, like a lot of things from our educating our young. I think that's my opinion. But
It's people I truly remember too. Like I know you've met him, Dick Snow. Remember Dick Snow? When he shook your
yeah,
hand, you freaking knew it. And when I first met Dick, he was probably easily in his mid 70s or early 70s when I first met him. And that man he had like number 10 frying pan hands, but he would look you in the eye and he would grip your hand and he would shake it. And you know, those are the folks that stick in your mind, and that's one of them is him, for that exact reason.
It's funny you mentioned Dick. So when he passed, they had a dispersal sale on his cows, and after losing a bunch of calves on a rough winter, I took some of the money off the cows I called and went and bought out of that dispersal sale.
Oh yeah.
And Dick ran Solear cross cattle, and for anybody that's been around Solear, they tend to be a little high-headed at moments. And I venture to say that I would have more wounded calves at least if it weren't for having all of those Solear cattle in the pasture where the wolf issues occurred, because those are some snorty dog fighting sons of bitches, and I'm glad I had them out there.
That's a great point, man. I forgot about you going down to Dick's.
Later.
What's that, Richard?
I said kick first and ask questions later.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll give you both barrels.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, and they don't care if you're a dog or a human half the time.
Yeah, they keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
So you know, it's just everything. It says a lot about that person, I think, and I don't think I'm reading too much into that. But there's those people that I remember that mean a lot to me. A lot of it's based on that handshake. Dick Bradbury is another guy that's always, you know, always get the hug too. But you know, you get that handshake and that look in the eye, and it just says a lot.
I don't know if you guys either of you ran into Mark Lundy.
What's the last name?
Mark Lundy.
I don't.
Lundy, Lundy.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
He's a big dude, blonde, almost just. He leans into it and crushes your hand. Never forget him because I've seen him bring people to their knees. And he just smiles and just loves it.
Like my buddy Doc Pfister, same thing. Yeah, huge, mammoth hands, and it just engulfs you. But you know, I guess if you can, you do. But you still got to give it all. You know, you got to be in there quick and give her what you got. And you might walk away not right for an hour, but they know they shook somebody's hand. By God, yeah. Great point, Rawls. Yeah, I think that's a great point, especially, you know, if you can't relate to some parts of this movie, then I question how you're living. So,
yeah,
it's means a lot to me. It's just one of my favorite movies. It says a lot about people, I think, and doing the right thing, you know, and you know, John never was really looking for a fight, but when it came down to it, he certainly delivered.
One of the things that struck me in the pieces, the pics that I saw, there was a couple of ladies sitting there watching the fight, and one in today's PC bullshit culture world, it struck me as just being the best thing I'd heard all week, because the one lady said, you know, there was like money being bet on this fight as it went, and everybody was putting their wager in, and the one lady says the other something to the effect, I don't remember the exact words, about one says, well, I hope so and so wins, and one says, I hope John Wayne wins because that other guy just needs his ass whipped.
Yeah.
And you know, it struck me as like, what happened to our world? Because I'm not condoning getting in a fight every time you turn around the corner, but that was a culture that, you know what, you went out, you knocked the shit out of each other, you stood up, you shook hands, and it was over. And where did that go? Now you face all kinds of charges and bullshit. And I mean, I suppose we've been over this on the podcast a little bit before about our high school days when we all had a shotgun in the car, you know, we hunted our way to school and we hunted our way back.
And at
But
lunch, yeah.
yeah, it kind of falls along those lines, you know. If you had a problem, you went outside, you settled it, you got over it, and came back in. You learn to disagree, and
That's key.
now
Yeah.
now everybody's got you're either one side or the other, and you're by God wrong either way.
That's a great point. Yeah.
You and Micah were there was still pretty rough.
What's that?
I said when you and I were going to school, we were sort of the last of that generation.
Yeah, I think so. They did break up some fights, but we still got SWATs. We still did them anyways. Yeah, all of us had guns in our rig. And I remember we had a couple in the back window of the pickup one day. And I think it was Bob, the ag teacher, called us over and said, "Hey, you guys, you probably shouldn't have those guns in your back window." And we're like, "Well, why?" He's like, "I don't want anybody to steal them, you dumbasses. Put them down." Oh, that's a good point, Bob. It wasn't like you can't have guns at school. It was like, well, don't be showing them off. Those are nice shotguns or whatever they were. So, yeah. And, Rawls, your point about the two ladies, I think one of them who said he needs his ass kicked, she was actually the Wooded to Land was actually in love with the big dumb brother, and it's like, yeah, he needs to be taken down a peg or two. And I love him anyways. And then, at the end, when they come kicking the door in and he's like, "Woman of the house, I have brought the brother home to sup." They came home and had dinner together, and so they got it all worked out. They respected each other. But we used to yell that when we'd walk into Eve's place and "Woman of the house," and she would just beam, and that was one of our favorite things, to kick the door in and yell at Eve, "Woman of the house, we have brought the Merwin into town," and so it was our announcement, and that's right where it came from was that, or if even when we'd been there for a while, we'd just yell "Woman of the house," and she'd bring more. And she just giggled, so it certainly permeates throughout our existence, no doubt. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll be curious when you get to sit down and watch it stem to stern. What other parts you pick? Because, I think, you already nailed it pretty well from some of the better ones anyways. Yeah. So it was.
Better make sure you watch it with the bride.
Yeah, that'd be a good point. Yeah, you guys be ribbing each other and pointing the whole time, probably. Yeah.
Oh, with Kel?
Yeah, Richard said watch it with the bride, and I said, "Oh yeah, you guys would be ribbing on each other." I'm like, "Oh, that's you." Yeah.
No, I mean, what little bit of I saw it today, I mean, it was like, wow, that's way too close to home.
That's why I was laughing so hard the other day, and I was like, "Oh man, yeah, you're really gonna like this movie, Raleigh. I think it's gonna be great. You too."
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we got married, the sign out in front of the place where we got married was McClintock paddling his wife with the dustpan. I mean, when you turned in the driveway, that was the picture of the driveway.
That's right. I so forgot that. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard Kelly's dad gave us a framed-in photo of that picture, and I mean, it's like. It hits way close to home.
It's too funny. Yeah. So yeah, Richard, that's a good point. They'll have to sit down and have movie night. You guys make some popcorn and
definitely wait for her to come home to watch this.
Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, we highly recommend Quiet Man. It just says a lot about life. I think it's some good lessons and maybe a time of old, but I think some of us are still hanging on to some of those values, and I think that's good. I think we need to, no doubt about it.
Yeah, for all the viewers, just what little I know about it, I'd recommend if they haven't seen it to go watch it to shine some light on the world we live in today.
Yeah, because it reminds me, I have what I call Micah's rules of order, and it kind of just stuck in my head when you said that, is that one of them is simple is best. And, never assume and start at the beginning. That's the other two. But that one that really makes sense to me now is simple is best at times, I think. And that means a lot of different things in a lot of different segments. But at this point, simple can be best. So take that for what it's worth. Yeah. And I will shift gears again. We'll usually do the intellectual moment of the week, but I think we really covered that to begin with when we talked about some of this depredation that Mr. Bigsby is going through, and then Richard's information on the attorney generals and et cetera. And so I think we're gonna we're just going to call that we've had our smart moments already. It kind of a surprise to all of us. So we're gonna. I know, yeah, and maybe it's because Joel and his torn labia aren't here that we had it already. So I don't know. Maybe not. We'll go with that for now. So we've had our tradition for a few weeks now to doing our Far Reaches Word of the Week. And so this week I picked it up, and since the first thing that popped in my mind was from my squid Navy days, and it also probably relates a lot to our current environment. The word I picked is scuttlebutt.
Ooh.
And so has anybody heard that, used it, or have any idea what I'm talking about when I say
I haven't heard it, but I don't know what it means.
Oh,
I've heard it. I have an assumption of what it means. A scuttlebutt's some sort of a activity that maybe shouldn't have happened or shouldn't be happening.
Well, that's pretty close. Yeah. So in the Navy, a water fountain is called a scuttlebutt. And oftentimes it's also slang for rumors and talk. You know, what's the scuttlebutt? Because oftentimes you'd gather around the water cooler or the water fountain, and that's where you're gossiping and telling lies and shit back and forth. And so when you say, hey, I heard the scuttlebutt is blah, blah, blah. So it's like the latest news. It's the rumors. It's the whatever, but it stems from the military word for water fountain, which is scuttlebutt.
So is that like a brand that makes it?
No. You know, it used to be way back in the day, it was a barrel or a cask. It was the scuttlebutt. And so that's where it originally came from. And then it turned into the drinking fountain, which just kept that name because it used to be a water barrel. So, yeah. So whenever that awkward transition in the Navy from a water barrel to a water fountain, they just kept calling it a scuttlebutt. So,
would that be something like when you'd go into a meeting that they'd say, you know, you gotta cut down the scuttlebutt?
Yeah, a lot of scuttlebutt about this, or watch the scuttlebutt about that. That's all just scuttlebutt, and don't worry about it. Yeah, or even when you're asking your buddy, like, you know, you run into your buddy, hey, what's the scuttlebutt on when we're leaving? And it was sort of that, you know, like, what are you hearing? You know, because some of your friends worked in the crypto area and heard all the radio messages coming in. And so sometimes you get a little information that you probably weren't supposed to have, but you're a good friend. So you're like, hey, what's the scuttlebutt on the such and such? And so also a way to say something without directly attributing it to an individual, you know, so you can, a word around the campfire is, you know, which is sort of my equivalent to the scuttlebutt. So, yeah. So yeah, that's the first word that popped in my head when I thought about what the the word of the week might be.
Well, along those lines, Micah, since you brought it up from your squid days, tell us a little bit about that, just briefly. What you did, where, you know, not necessarily where you went or anything, but kind of what that part of your life was about.
Yeah, sure. So I joined. Let's see, I graduated in June, and then I went in the next January 31st. I joined. So I was on the bus to MEPS, military enrollment, whatever that was called, in Portland on Super Bowl Sunday. I remember getting up with the ass crack of dawn and catching a bus from Klamath Falls. I had to get a ride to Klamath, and then got on the bus and then went to military processing in Portland. And then you get all your paperwork, and then you jump on a plane. And there was only about 8 or 10 of us on the whole entire plane. No, let me take that back. There's like 14 because there was us, some squids, and then there was some jarheads. The Marines also flew down with us. But we're the only people on the plane, basically. So you land, and they pick you up, and that's the end of your civilian world as you know it, because you go right into processing, basically. So, you know, we had the classic. I did boot camp in San Diego, which is kind of rare because I was from the West Coast. And so back then, I think they had still Great Lakes and San Diego for boot camp areas. And so to be from the West Coast, most of the time you got shipped to Great Lakes just because, I don't know why, some kind of weird military thing, but rarely did you go to the same coast that you were living on. So anyways, went to boot camp in San Diego, and you know, you get the haircut, and then the next day everybody's like, you're feeling your head and you're feeling your buddy's head, because it just feels so weird, because it's like a zero blade really, like, and it's just, you know, in about 3 seconds. And I still have a mole here. I didn't at the time, because I said, hey, make sure you watch that that mole on the back of my neck. Yeah. So I'm bleeding, you know, I'm tired, I'm bald, I'm wearing sweatpants. You take all your valuables and you stick them in a sock, you know, and it just kind of, it hangs out of your sweatpants because you haven't got to your barracks yet or anything. And so, you know, boot camp, there's hours of story about boot camp and the craziness we went through, because you're bringing people together from everywhere, like New York and Jersey and Alabama and in Oregon, and, you know, like, just, I think they almost do it on purpose, like to find the most random people and put them together, just because I think it's probably entertaining. It does build a good team anyways. But so I went through boot camp and some schooling, and I got sent to a destroyer, or tin can as it's called. You know, it's only 600 feet long, so it's tiny in the Navy. But and so and I won't go on too long, but one of the funny stories is when I first checked on board, you know, you're supposed to have like your orders, and, you know, you're assigned to a certain part of the ship. Either you're going to work in the forward engine room or the aft or the HT shop or somewhere, depending on where their need was. So I think I checked in on a Sunday, and so it was a little more relaxed, you know, of where I was going to go. And I was hanging out in where we lived, called the berthing, BERTH, and kind of just like, hey guys, you know, and like, oh, and turns out a guy that was on the boat, parents owned the grocery store in Pine Creek. And he remembered me, and he's like, because he walked up and said, hey, Micah. And like, I had heard my first name and, you know, forever. There was just Wells. And so, and then somebody else started talking to this guy named Jason Milligan, was from Klamath Falls. And he worked in the HT shop, and he's like, hey, I bet you can weld if you're from Lakeview. And I'm like, matter of fact, yeah, I'm a ninja. And he's like, great, you want to be in the HT shop? And I'm like, that sounds awesome. So away I went. And Monday morning, I go to muster up, and I'm with the HT shop, you know, and call and roll, and I'm there about 2 or 3 days before somebody finally figures out that I'm not actually detailed to the HT shop. I'd been marked AWOL for 3 days because I was supposed to be lining up with forward engine room, you know, and so they finally found me. You know, like, I was walking around the berthing, and Dave's like, dude, where have you been? I knew I saw you. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're supposed to be working in forward engine room. I'm like, no, I'm working in the HT shop. He's like, no, you're not. So, but it seemed like, and like day one, I'm down welding, you know, like, all right, go give her hell. And so like a guy that had been working in the shop for about a year, they called him Spider. Spider couldn't even go weld by himself yet. And he was all bent out of shape. Like, who's this guy? They're like, well, go with him and learn how to weld, Spider. So I finally got put back into my right position. I got assigned to forward engine room, which was really cool because we're working on huge engines, you know. The generator was a DC-10. And so what turned out to be handy too, because on the boat, you're supposed to have a process for everything. There's supposed to be paperwork. Well, now you could put a request in to get something welded up, and if the HT shop felt like going and doing it, they would. If they didn't, it's just a request. You know, they had their system. But I could just roll back there, get a welder, run up to my engine room, weld on what I needed to do, and take the welder back. And so, yeah, they called me Boy Scout was one of my names because I was always wrangling on something or rednecking it, so to speak. And yeah, I was the first guy to ever take 2 wrenches and put an end in, you know, double wrench on something to break something loose.
Oh, geez.
Thought I painted the Mona Lisa, you know, like you don't learn that in school, you know, so. But oh my god, yeah. And then I'll tell you one more quick story, and then we'll move on from Navy dates. But again, going back to paperwork and this and that and the other, you know, when we're in port, a lot of times when you're in port, you're doing repairs and maintenance, and you're getting ready for your next trip. And so they have what's called a tender. It's like a huge floating store, machine shop. I mean, it's like the coolest. If you like to work on stuff like that, it's the most cool thing you can go look at. They got parts and they make stuff, and it's so when you're out to sea, you'll have 1 or 2 tenders with every battle group. Well, the tender was right across the pier from us, and so we got to see the name of the tender. I'm like, me and my buddy were like, So you can roll down to the PDX or the Navy store, and you can buy hats or covers, as you call them, for pretty much any boat that's stationed in San Diego, because you have like we'll wear a nice hat sometimes when you're on duty. So we just go buy a hat. It was the Acadia, was the tender across the pier from our ship. So we bought a couple of Acadia hats, because nobody checks to see what boat you're on. They can't even tell. So we take those back on our boat, and we had a bunch of crap we needed for the engine room, and we didn't want to fill all the paperwork out and wait. So we just put our Acadia hats on and strolled across there, and permission to come aboard the Acadia. And they don't know us from Adam. There's 3,000 people on the Acadia. And so, and we just wander around until we find out what we're looking for. We go shopping. And so we bring all our shit back across. Permission to go to shore? Yeah, carry on. And then we go to our boat. And of course, they know us. And they're like, oh, you guys, just get on the boat. And so we take our stuff and we go do our thing, So not like we're stealing. I mean, it all belongs to Uncle Sam. So, but yeah, they got quite the charge out of that too. Like, Wells, where did you get the idea? I'm like, I don't know. It seemed like a good idea. I thought we could get away with it. We bought the Acadia hats at the PDX the other day. So,
are there any of the guys you were on there with that you're still in contact with?
Yeah, there's a few, and not as many as I'd hoped. But some of, like my buddy Sinkus, he lives up around Chicago. We were pretty good friends, and I've talked to Dave. Dave was the guy that his parents owned the store. I haven't talked to Dave in a while. Chief Craft, I talk to every once in a while. Facebook's made it easier. We have a little Facebook group that I'm still on. But yeah, it was.
It'd be fun to have you, and if they could do it on the podcast, just so you guys could talk about your day on the boat and some of the stories. Because I venture to say that there's some really good stories that we're not being told right now.
Man, yeah, there's no doubt, because it was crazy. Yeah, we were constantly kicking each other's ass, basically. If we weren't kicking each other's ass, we were kicking somebody else's ass, because it was like, and it wasn't like a full curb stomping, but you'd know that you lost and you got roughed up. And so, for example, there was like 3 decks tall was like the different berthings where people lived. And so like ops was upstairs, like all the guys that worked like in the air conditioned space or looked at computer screens. And then there was us, the snipes or engineering, that all worked in the engine room and HT shop, the knuckle draggers, so to speak. And then there was another berthing below of similar guys of ops. Well, since we ran, we made all the water for the boat. We ran all the systems for the toilets and all the TVs, and all our stuff always worked, always, because we took care of it, for one. And then if it broke, we could fix it. But other people's stuff wouldn't work, or sometimes, we'd get off work and want to go take a shower, and some a-hole that worked in CT or the office would go get up in the morning, take a shower, go to work, come back, work out, take a shower. He'd taken 3 showers a day. I haven't got one yet. So we'd get a little pissed and we'd just turn the water off. So one night we did that. We turned the water off. We turned their bathrooms off. And so we're watching a movie in this little area, and I don't remember what it was. And then this guy from upstairs comes down, and he just kind of gives us a dirty eye and goes in our bathroom and doesn't even say anything. I'm like, well, screw that. So my buddy just gets up and rolls over real quiet, and we put a hasp on it. He closes, puts the hasp over, shoves a bolt down through, and the door's locked down. He can't get out. There's no way to get out. Then we just turn up the movie, and we watch the whole sumbitch for an hour and a half, and he's in there pounding on the door, screaming bloody murder, and so we finally get done with the movie, and we're like, are you ready? Yeah, sure. So we let him out, and we thrash him, smash him around a bit and throw him out in the hallway. And then so he goes upstairs and gets all his buddies, because he'd been assaulted, so to speak. So they come downstairs, and we kick the crap out of them because we're waiting for him, and we're pissed off anyways. And so we thrash them all and send them on their way. And then we wait about 45 minutes, and I'm like, let's go get them sumbitches again. So then we go up to their berthing instead of thrashing ours, and that's when we tip over trash cans and tip stuff over. Not many things float around because it's all bolted down, And so yeah, we might have pulled some mattresses off and thrashed them around a bit, and then went back to our house. So instead of fighting ours, we went to theirs. But yeah, it was good, clean fun. You had to blow off a little steam, And so, when we got to port, or even that night, we're all fun and games again, or certainly by the next day. But our big game was either kidney shots. That was every day, no matter what you're doing. you're putting a valve in up over your head, holding it, and my buddy Gumby would come along and you know it's coming. You can't do a damn thing about it. You know, you just take it and wait to catch him sometime. So kidney shots, yeah, we kind of messed up Gravarette's red blood count with that one because who was it? I can't remember who it was. Would get out of bed at night. Oh, and he would sneak over. Oh, Gumby would, and he'd open Gravarette's curtain in his bed, and he'd just crack him right in the kidneys and close the curtain, roll back, and go jump in bed, and he wouldn't know who stomped on him. and then I'll tell you one more, and then we'll move on. The next tradition was called a pink belly. On your birthday was pink belly time, which is they open up, you know, most of the times we just wore a t-shirt and coveralls and your underwear. That was your uniform of the day, usually when you're working in the engine room. And so, yeah, pink belly, open up your coveralls, pull up your shirt, and you just smack somebody with the palm of your hand when you're holding them down right in the chest. And it just makes a hell of a noise and leaves a big old handprint. And, you know, you get 50 or 60 of those, and it turns pretty red and eventually numb. And so one of the closest guarded secrets on the boat is your birthday, because you don't want anybody to know, because that's what's coming up, you know. And so apparently I'm a bit of a smartass, turns out. And so there was like a bounty on when my birthday was to find out. So the schmucks in the office knew, of course, and so they were human, so they're fallible. So anyways, I get about halfway through my birthday, and I'm thinking, I think I've done it. Nobody knows. This is sweet. So I'm working away, and they're like, hey, Wells, go down to Shaft Alley and check pump number 2. All right, do. And I don't think anything about it, but Shaft Alley is unique in where it's like 6 decks straight down into a little room that's just a pump room, and it's about 20 by 20, but there's only like a little 4 by 8 area you can kind of walk around, and it's just pumps and crap everywhere. It's called Shaft Alley. And so I'm like, do, and I get down there. I'm like, pump number 2. Seems to be working just fine. Maybe they made another one. So I look at like, well, that's weird. And then I go to leave and I look up and there's just boots coming down the ladder. You know, there's probably 15 or 20 guys have been waiting in there, and there's no way for me to get out of Shaft Alley. Like, I literally have to chew through the wall. And I'm like, oh, I just dropped my clipboard. I'm like, oh, this is going to suck. And so, you know, the first few guys that come down the ladder, you can grab their legs and give them one of these, you know, and the first 3 or 4 guys, yeah, you can handle, but then they start getting back up, and then the other guys keep coming down the ladder, you know. So you fight off all you could, but eventually they pin your arms and they pink belly the bejesus out of you. And so, you know, get all done. I'm beat to hell, and I'm zipping back up, you know, and I'm gathering my things up, and I go to leave, and I'm like, you know, guys, appreciate that and all, but I think a birthday card would have been just fine. And I thought I could scramble up out of there quick enough, you know, being smart. And no, got jerked back down by my feet and ate shit, and they rolled me over and gave me a whole nother set of pink bellies. Guys, I just don't learn sometimes. But yeah, it took me a good 20 minutes to crawl back up out of there, because it's like, it's a straight ladder, 6 stories up basically, or 6 decks. So, you know, you're beat to hell, sore, a little bloody, because you're wrestling on basically diamond plate, non-skid floor. That's what you're wrestling on. Steel rails all around, steel ladder. You know, it's not exactly playland. And so, yeah, you're pretty damn sore. But yeah, don't tell anybody your birthday. So yeah, that's a tip of the tip right there, Rawls. Yeah, much chaos. But I hadn't thought about some of those stories for a while. So thanks for the question. I'll have to get my buddy Sinkus. I think he would have a great time.
Yeah, it's fun to hear that stuff.
I'm sure he remembers things that I forgot or wanted to forget. So, but you know, again, as we talked, my, you know, prevalence for nicknames was certainly reinforced during my Navigator days, for sure. Yeah. So, because like, you know, Gumby, his last name was really Green, but he's from Mississippi, tall, wiry fella, you know. I called him Gumby because he's just flexible and wiry and so and hilarious. Yeah. So just a little community though. It really helped me get used and good at like networking and finding out what somebody, you know, we did nothing by the book, like nothing by the book. It was all, if you knew somebody you could get a favor, you could do it back. You know, it was the whole thing, like didn't fill out paperwork, just had that. And some people couldn't get away with that because they were a-holes. But if you're cool and had a good relationship, like, you could get almost anything done you needed to get done. But if you're a dick, you could use the system and be like, sorry, man, don't have the form. Can't do it. Which if you're working the system, it's cool. If you're not, so I kind of approach college with the same weaselly manner, if you will. So, yeah.
But you were so mature, much more mature than everybody at college by the time you got done with Navy.
Yeah.
Well, in some ways, yeah, I certainly would sing a tour and was not my first time away from home. Yeah, I'd been floating around. I turned 18 in Panama City, actually, was where I had my 18th birthday because I signed up, enlisted early, and my parents signed for me to get in. I was only 17 when I signed up and joined. So,
How old were you when you got out?
It would have been 19, or I was only in like just around 2 years, I guess. Yeah. So 19, let's see, 18, about 20, I guess. I was 21 my freshman year of college. I remember that. I turned 21. Obviously, August is my birthday, and then we started in September. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I remember you guys were squared away because I came to come visit you guys at the band, and I hitchhiked across the country with some guy that was just sick as me, got rid of me, and had all sorts of misadventures, and he dumped me off on the ground. And Micah and Cody, they were like these really responsive, mature college students.
From the outside, yeah.
Yeah. So like, what is Cody one time told me, this is not how civilized people act. Always had fun with you guys though.
Oh man, yeah, it did, yeah. And there's about 9 podcasts just in college alone, maybe more. Yeah, but I remember that quote directly, Richard. I do.
But I remember the discipline between you and everybody else around you was totally different. So I think that had a lot to do with the military.
Yeah, there's no way around it. Yeah, they definitely. Once you figure out in boot camp that their job is to completely destroy you and then teach you what they want you to know, and then when you figure out, no matter what they do, they really can't do anything to you. When you have that mindset, that empowerment, it doesn't matter. And some people figured it out week 2 or 3, and some people I don't think ever figured it out. But we knew at a point, like. Yeah, and we call it getting beat, where you just PT you till you're puking up rust. But you knew, like, no matter, like after a while, like, I can do whatever they're going to throw at me. I don't like it when somebody else screws up and we all have to do something. We go have to talk to that person. But your mindset completely changes from being afraid and timid and I don't know what to do to knowing how you stand and like, okay, no matter what you do to me, I'm going to be here tomorrow and I can take anything you can throw at me. And when you have that, then it completely changes. So I think that probably carries over a bit too.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to learn that lesson. It's finally when I was in the oil field, some old oil field hand told me, he goes, don't be too hesitant around here. He goes, you aren't screwing stuff up, you're not learning anything.
Yeah.
That was completely. Like a free pass just to carnage.
Well, everybody's going to use that get out of jail card a little bit different, I'm sure. But if you're timid and apprehensive, you're not going to make probably the best choice you should. You might, for sure. But most times, it's either going to take you a lot longer than it should, or it won't be the right one because you don't want to make that choice, I think. And so, that luckily that got burned into me about week 2 or 3. A couple of buddies and I we'd be marching somewhere or waiting to get into class and just like, dude, basically we know what's going to happen. We're going to get beat. We're going to sweat. We're going to, we got beat so hard one day we walked into a classroom and the instructor goes, Jesus, is it raining outside? You guys are soaked. No, so-and-so was dicking around in line and we all got beat for 45 minutes. That's why we're late. And that's why it looks like we got in a rainstorm because we were doing PT for 45 minutes, but we're here now, sir. Okay, come on in. Just like he looked like we actually got rained on. That's how much we sweat. Yeah. So look at me now, you'd never know that, but that's still deep down in me somewhere. I have that ability just to get my wheat shredded and keep going. Oh yeah, I've never been any place in the world I had to put suntan lotion on my head, but San Diego with the the number 0 blade, you suntan lotion your head because if you had your cover off, you'd fry. Yeah, so. Yeah, Rawls, thanks for that. I haven't thought about some squid stories for quite a while, so that was got my brain running around in circles. So, and you guys learned scuttlebutt, so you can like there's been quite a bit of scuttlebutt about some wolf in Wallow County. That would be how I'd use that. Yeah.
What I just have to point this out. Jesus, Raleigh, you were in the middle of everything. What the hell? I was just telling my mother-in-law, last time we did this podcast, she goes, well, I know Micah. And I told her Joel's from New York. I've never met him, but I know the other guy. And he knows Elena. We met. He helped her pick out her boots and everything.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I said, he's just really unique, interesting guy. And she goes, really? What's he done? I said, well, he's done all sorts of stuff. And he has this fabulous cast of brothers. Jeez. Never know when any of those guys are going to turn up. But I said, he's the last guy to see the wacko fly around the world and balloon guy. She's like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
I said, the guy out in Erington. And I said, he finally got bugged by reporters so much that he just left. And here you are again. you see, the limelight just seems to follow you around.
Is that Hilton? Is that who it was, Rawls?
Steve Fawcett.
Fawcett, that's right, on the Hilton Ranch. Yeah.
On the Hilton Ranch. Yeah.
I forgot about that completely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
We'll have to put that down for sure.
That's that's old news. You're moving on.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I can't really put a finger on why in the hell a reporter would have anything to do with me, but apparently they do.
You're intriguing, I suppose. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, exactly. That's like saying
You're gonna be able to start a ranching consulting firm for media relations pretty soon.
Yeah, shit I've been through. That's what you can call it. Yeah.
I've had several people, of course, Micah, and you guys know me well enough that there's a plethora of stories that would probably potentially put together a pretty good book, but I've had lots of recommendations for that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think wait till the statute of limitations is fully passed, and then we can probably put something together for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't lived the normal.
I will have to convince
somebody of my era.
But it had the backbone to do what you did. So I think that you're probably in that special 2% of people that are probably gonna make a difference. So kudos to you, man.
And that's coming from Richard. That's
I'm humbled by that from you. I hope that's right. If what went on in this past couple of weeks could make a difference for the stockmen dealing with this issue, that would be my only hope, that some good comes out of it. So,
and that leads perfectly into some. We've got some listener mail this week, and again, I wish Joel was here and I could share it with him, but he'll listen to it next time. So I got a couple comments today from Aaron in Oregon regarding the podcast. I like Joel, but I could have reached to the phone and strangled him on many occasions. He usually is so educated on things, but every once in a while he'll say something like the flu having a vaccine, and I'm yelling at my phone as if he'll hear me. But I do enjoy listening to you guys so much. Also, Richard should talk more about what he's involved in. He is a very smart cookie. So that's from Aaron in Oregon. Also, she wanted to know if I would have Raleigh talk about the wolf. I said that's up to him. And then some other comments from earlier today that I happen to remember to keep for posterity. Somebody was very, very excited about us doing the Quiet Man and all of our conversations that would be going around that as well. So they were like, oh God, it's Thursday. You're gonna be talking about, are you doing it right now? Are you talking about the Quiet Man? I said, in an hour or two, we will be. So thank you to our devoted listeners. Now, that's just some of the mail we've gotten this week, but I thought I would share that for you guys to hear some of the insights. And
That's cool.
Yeah. So it's cool to get those thoughts when people are listening. We get a lot of people say, I love to listen to you guys when I'm driving, just because it's entertaining, and sometimes I get mad, and sometimes I laugh, and sometimes I do both. And I said, outstanding. Yeah. So
My mom has threatened to listen.
uh-oh. Yeah.
I'm good. I think maybe tomorrow I'll intercept and persuade her to start about last week's episode.
Yeah, I think so. When we started video. Yeah. I think we have learned and evolved. We are by no means what you call broadcast specialists, or even people who know how to talk very well. So we're just used to getting to talking with each other and not over each other, and it's somewhat of a fashion that's probably presentable to most average audiences. Not always, that mind you, but yeah, I think it'll be fun to look back in a while. We look at some of the early days and be like, oh yeah, we were raw, young, and crazy. Now we're just old and raw, crazy. So
That's crazy.
yeah. Oh, so with that, we will go and wrap up with our best thing of the week and see what everybody has to say. Richard, you look like you're antsy, so you want to lead us off on best thing of the week?
Well, this has been a pretty good conversation. This might be, yeah, I'd say that it was interesting to hear Raleigh's searching. I can't find the right word, but
ordeal
over the last couple of weeks. That's interesting. And then what did I learn? I learned that the world has decided to move on without any permission from anybody in the political class. So we're rocking and rolling here, and I think that Harney County, not Harney County, but Modoc County just extended the big middle finger to their state, which is California, and said we're opening everything back up last week, and nothing happened.
Turns out,
I think they all got their birthdays taken away collectively, but that's about all that happened.
And I can attest that you don't want a birthday anyways. So yeah. Let's see, Rawls, I'll let you go last this week. I think you could probably finish this off nicely because I'm pretty brief. Just some private phone conversations I've been able to have again this week with some people I haven't got a chance to talk to in a while. I think that's the one thing this chaos and asinine idiocy has brought out is people communicating a bit more, and maybe some folks you haven't talked to in a while. And I truly appreciate that. And hopefully, again, it doesn't shut down when things revert to either normal or what they might be. And tied with that too is the increasing attitude of people realizing that their rights are precious and they're theirs and they need to be exercised. And if you want to stay home, that's up to you. But you can't kill my livelihood in my world because you're scared. And I don't make light of the disease. I make light of the estimates and what we were told to begin with, and that we're not adapting to. And so I know Modoc County's told them to go pound sand. I believe Crook County did the same thing. Started some conversation this afternoon about Pendleton Roundup, as that's in the second week of September, and a lot of people are speculating that it's going to be shut down. And I don't think that's what we need to do. Like I said on Facebook, we raged on after 9/11.
Yes, I was there.
And we were there, and you're standing. I just got freaking goosebumps thinking about it, because every night we were outside singing God Bless America or whatever freaking song we wanted to rage into. And if I tear up, I apologize. But, that was an absolute tragedy. And we felt the best thing to do. I say we, like I was on the board or something, that we were going to go on, and there was even speculation it might be targeted as a site because of so many people who are there. I think if you want to come to Roundup, you should come to Roundup. If you want to stay home, that's fine. But I guarantee you, if you ever been through Litter Buck Room and you lived out the other side, you ain't got to worry about much else. I'm sorry, but that'll pretty much, there's your immunity, and that might be short-sighted, and I don't mean to make light of it, but I just don't believe the numbers we're seeing, and I think it's time for people to keep moving forward, like the hairdresser, like different counties, like different businesses. So that's my best thing in the week for sure, is people realizing that their rights are theirs. They're precious. They're not granted by the government. the Constitution protects us from the government and grants us the rights and not the government. And I think people are realizing that and hopefully remembering it. So I'll get off my soapbox, but that's what I have to say about that.
Roundup ever been canceled?
Yes,
I think so.
twice during the war years. I don't remember if it was World War One or two, but yes, for 2 years.
Yeah.
The thing of it is I mean, her agenda is only through September. They'll move around up to the 1st of October. What the hell?
Now, that's another thought, and it's a suggestion. I don't know how you can decree anything like that. But yeah, I agree. Hell, yeah, if you want to do that, I think that would be squirrely. But it's last I checked, it's what, May 7th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got 2 calendars behind me. I still don't know what frickin' day it is. Yeah, it's May. So, to be talking about a thing shut down in September, it seems a little crazy to me. I'm not saying people aren't going to be sick, but people have the flu and get sick long before this came along, and they'll do the same thing long after. So I think it's a personal choice, and it should be that.
I've had the flu and got sick at Pendleton many times.
Yes. I think if you go by that, many people have had that same flu. Yeah, it seems to be hydration.
I've had the Hamley strain and the Bow strain.
The Bow strain. Yeah. There's a lot of cross contamination. There's no doubt about that. Yes. So, man, I would probably be quiet before I get myself in trouble. So, yes,
Mr. Tell you, the Happy Canyon strain, nothing to be happy about.
No.
Turns out, no, there's not. No, it's the Krabby strain. That's completely different and unrelated. Just so you know. Yeah.
Anybody gets that deserves it.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. And that's why I tried to behave, and I couldn't hold it in any longer. So I had to
you open that door for yourself.
Yeah. Just saying. Anything to add, Mr. Bigsby? What would you like to say?
Oh, what was the question?
Just sort of. If a train leaves Chicago, no, the best thing of the week or what you learned. If they're the same, both different.
Best thing of the week. I really don't have anything to go on right there. I mean, I don't have anything to complain about, but probably I think for, we're all under this umbrella at the same time. And I think from a learning perspective, as more things come about in the media and more things surface as to what's really going on, maybe a lot of it's conspiracy. Maybe there's a lot of things that are just purely bullshit for the media's sake. But going back to our rights and who we are as a nation and our freedoms, I think it's been a monumental time for generations of all ages to learn a lesson from what's going on here. And we've gotten so complacent in our society that we've forgotten about what's going on in our history, and we're getting a real eye-opening because it's repeating itself right now in a lot of ways. And just being able to step back, realize how good we have it, and what we may have to do to keep it. I see a lot of different things pop up on social media from a lot of different people. Don't get me wrong, the seriousness of the disease itself is concerning, and maybe not now as much as it was at first. Mm-hmm. But there's more important things in life to worry about than death, and living is something we all need to continue to do. So
it ain't dying I'm talking about, Raleigh. It's living.
Yep.
I don't think Gus said it as good as could be said.
Well, they're pandering to the fear of people, and there's nothing worse than fear itself. So. Mm-hmm. Step back, take a look at the big picture, and move on with your lives. That's what I can take from it right now. And fortunately, I live in a world, and Richard can probably relate to this very well. The effect of this on us has not really been anything out of the ordinary. Life's gone on. Mm-hmm. I haven't done anything different other than maybe try to understand why I have to walk up one aisle and down the other one in Safeway. But you know, that was bizarre to me, and I haven't been back since. Probably won't go back.
Just claim you're dyslexic and they can't discriminate against you.
It has given me a real appreciation for small business. We have a really small little grocery store here in Enterprise that does a great job. They have everything that you would ever need there.
Mm-hmm.
Are their prices points maybe as good as Safeway? No, but I'll shop there for the rest of my life because they didn't look at me funny when I walked in the door without a mask. So
yeah,
they you got treated normal. And I think that there's a sentiment across a lot of America that everybody talks about what the new normal is or what normal is. I think just being able to live our lives and the way we want to live them is what normal is. And should there be a new normal? I don't know. I don't live in any town where I have to look at how it was versus how it is now. So I can't really speak for that, but I don't see a need for having any quote unquote new normal at this point. Just go back to life. So.
Yeah, this is not the time to take the opportunity to restructure society based on one political viewpoint over another, i.e. we've had our 30-day trial of socialism. I think you can take it back now.
30, I think we're on like day
55, something like that. Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's certainly getting to be a lot more rhetoric of discomfort and people getting pissed off. I'm hearing more and more of it every day, and understandably so. And bullshit's bullshit. Just how long you want to wait around in it.
We gave you some time. We looked at your numbers. We were cautious. I think it's over. Yeah.
Time to reset back to when Bruce Springsteen released Born to Run. We'll start over from there.
That would be perfect, really. Yeah.
I don't even get much more random than that, and I thank you for that, Richard. Yeah, like Born to Run. I'm like,
well, I was thinking it's like 88, 87.
Why not Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap? I don't know.
One the center field.
Okay, put me in, Coach. Yeah. Or I Smell Sex and Candy. How about then? That was pretty good too. That was college.
Oh yeah. I was thinking about Barbie Girl yesterday.
You are a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, aren't you, Richard? Yeah. I can see you driving cattle trucks singing that to yourself. Yeah.
I just had that exact visual.
Keep
bopping around in the cow truck, singing "I'm a Barbie Girl." Yeah.
We've all had those moments, especially you got no radio. You just keep making up songs, and one blends right into the next one. It doesn't make any damn sense at all. Yeah. So. Oh, and on that high point, I think we'll try to herd this one up until the end.
Just remember, grooves in the heart.
Tin roof, rusted. There we go. So, grooves in the heart. You are the dancing queen. Yes. So there we go. The grooves in the heart. Damn it! That's going to be in my head. I'm trying to get it out by saying other songs. It won't let go. It's there. I could Macarena you, I guess, but I wouldn't do that. That would be mean, wouldn't it? So,
I would walk 500 miles if I could help you out.
Oh.
Well, I'd take a chance. Yeah. Good Lord. Yeah. Go listen to some George Strait or something and reset my brain. Yeah.
I was just thinking I need to go watch this out with some Chris Lippy.
Oh, what have we done? What have we done? Oh my God. Okay. We got to wrap this up before it gets worse. That's possible.
We don't have a movie yet.
I know. I was just going to let it slide, but
Richard's turn.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Yes. Yes. I was thinking about that. I was going to let it go. Then I got thinking like, no, actually people are listening to know what the movie's going to be. So Richard, you've obviously thought about it.
No, I knew we didn't have a movie yet.
Oh, okay. I think if we go by the rotation, it would come back to you.
I got it. The original Alien.
The original Alien. Ooh. I like that. I have not seen that in many a day. Rawls, you ever seen
I
Alien?
better
No.
Well, guess
Make
what,
sure
Buttercup?
make sure you turn all the lights out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do I need to wait for my wife to come home for that one too?
Yeah, and leave your faucet in your kitchen dripping.
Dripping just a little bit. You should probably watch that by yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think. Yeah. Because if you don't and she watches it too, you'll roll over at night and she'll probably club you with something. Yeah, I'm just going to say.
Well, that's a normal night.
I know, but now she'll have a different excuse. So, yeah.
I'll let her get off crutches first.
Yeah, yeah, put those up at least. Yeah, she might still be on them, but just hide them. So.
Yeah.
Alien is the movie. Richard, I have to applaud you also for the randomness of my name is Nobody to Alien. I love it. I love it. I think that's perfect. and since let's just do this, you can have word of the week too, since you got movie. That way we don't forget who has it. How's that sound?
All right.
So we'll kind of pair those up so that way it makes it easier. Simple, especially with this herd. So outstanding. Well, let's wrap this up for this week. If nobody has anything else to add, any gems you want to drop in, don't see any more damn songs. Okay, perfect. So remember, folks, share this with your friends and your enemies because they probably deserve it. We are on YouTube. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google. Basically, if you want to listen to us, it's out there, like it or not. That's the modern society we live in, and bless its heart for that. So, get on YouTube. You can watch this live as it unfolds like this, and then share that with your friends. Make sure you subscribe, comment, send in your questions, your comments. We will read them if you want us to, and so we'll do that. But again, make sure if you got questions, you can email at farreachespodcast@gmail.com or reach out on any of our respective social media pages, or like most people, just send me a text, and we'll go from there. So with that being said, we can't thank you enough for
One thing to say to the audience.
Okay.
They are the wind beneath my wings.
Oh God. With that, I can't top it. Remember that, folks. You are the wind beneath the Richard's wings. Bastard.